All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about deal structure. There are two main ways that we see this happening in our industry right now, and that is majority acquisition, whereas you have retained equity, you're keeping a portion of your company and remaining on as the CEO. And then there are 100% buyouts. Now, you probably remain on as CEO after that 100% buyout, but you don't have retained equity. Now, both have an earn-out structure, but when you have retained equity, your retained equity is not part of the earn-out. Your retained equity is just true, pure ownership in your organization. So when I did my deal with AmeriLife, I retained 49% equity in the company, and I also had an earn-out based on the performance of the company relative to the initial 51% acquisition. So the way those earn-outs can work, if you did a 100% deal, the earn-out would typically work. What we've seen is there'll be like a 70-30 structure where 70% of your cash comes up front and 30% is tied into stock and relative performance of the company post-sale. And then normally there's about a 3-year period where they are measuring the performance of the company and the contribution to their entire organization for earn-out. Some of your earn-out is now tied into stock relative to all of their acquisitions, whereas some of the earn-out might be tied to just your performance. With the organization that I partner with, AmeriLife, it was completely different. I have a compound annual growth rate that I have to hit an actual monetary goal that's equal to another turn or 1x of my EBITDA at closing. The biggest difference there is that my earnout is tied solely to the performance of my organization. Now, I did buy into stock in AmeriLife and have stock in AmeriLife, and so that value is relative to all of AmeriLife's company's performance. Something you have to be aware of is what is a compound annual growth rate? Compound annual growth rate, some people refer to this as a CAGR, and if I have a goal of 115% earnings of my earnings at closing, my EBITDA at closing after the first year, then I have to hit 115% of that in the first year to get 1/3 of my earnout. Then the next year I would have 130, maybe 130%. This isn't exactly mine, but similar concept, 130% to hit another 1/3. Now, the thing is, the first year I could hit 110 and not get that third, but the next year make up for it, and as long as I hit 130, I could still get 1/3. So it's not that you have to hit every year, it's that if you don't hit the first year, you're just gonna have to play additional catch up in the second year. So that's how a compound annual growth rate would work. They can also tie valuation of your remaining equity to put call options that are tied to your compound annual growth rate, maybe with a higher goal. So instead of 115, maybe it's 120. But that's going to give you bonus EBITDA multiples. Another thing that you need to be concerned about after the deal is a concept called shared services allocation. If you sell your company to a platform organization, they're probably going to have a robust contracting and commissions team. They're going to have data side, they're going to have legal, they're going to have an accounting firm. All of these organizations within their infrastructure, and a lot of these platform companies are going to charge a 5% or a 10% or a 2% shared services allocation. So this might be a percentage of your revenue is earmarked for that. So if you have retained equity, you're not getting distribution of that money because it's coming off of your bottom line. There's a couple other concepts that are a little bit further down the road, and I'm going to talk about those in the next video. It's just going to get into the vernacular of things you deal with and navigating a partnership over a long period of time.